Welcome to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today, we're talking about how to know if your assets are working hard enough for you.
Always constantly learning, and the tax code changes, the laws change, every state is different, right? You change your desire why you have a particular asset or what your goal or your purpose of that asset is. If you don't have a plan for everything, including the most important asset in all of your assets is you. An asset is something that appreciates and grows income. That's you.
All right, so today we're talking about an important topic, and that is the work that your assets are doing for you. And this is something that we hear doctors say all the time. They have a lot of assets that they've amassed over their career. We have always talked about a hodgepodge of advice that they get, and they have all these assets that are amassed. And I think one of the questions that we want to assess for people is, how are those assets working for you? And the thing that immediately comes to mind for me is like, are they even doing the right thing? Bob, we were talking about this with about a member the other day, and you're like, they had these assets that were generating nearly $100,000 a month in income that they don't need, that they're getting taxed on. And it's like, is so inefficient. So I think, yes, I like the topic to this is, are they working for you, but are they even working for you in the right way?
Yeah, it's before we begin, there's a couple, I think, housekeeping rules of understanding terra firma's language compared to the language of the rest of the industry. We're talking about assets. The rest of the industry, the rest of the world talks about as investments. And really, it's because they want you to be uneducated about what's happening with your money. The other thing, housekeeping, is this not an investment advice, right? We're just doing this for educational purposes only. Though we're talking about assets, investments, and various aspects of that, we are just doing this from an educational perspective only. The other thing is, I think, understanding the baseline of what's your purpose of your assets. So I think, like a doctor, you need to assess your patient and come up with a reason for the root cause of the symptoms that they're feeling. Now, just masking the symptoms is not going to bring that individual, that patient, to health. It's the same thing with us, is that people come to us because they're overpaying taxes. Well, the taxes are a byproduct of income, and the income is a byproduct of their assets. Okay. And that's the point and purpose of an asset. So if you want to know the details of the 3 stages of an asset and what we talk about in asset efficiency, go to our other channel, Asset Coach and Tax Strategist. We go into these types of details on that channel specifically so we can be more purposeful and productive to you as a physician on a kind of more of a global basis of instruction and content and education. If you want to get into the weeds, go over there. If you want to get more into the weeds, become a member. All right. So as an asset, to your point, Joe, these assets need to have a particular order. And how do you know what order they should be in? Based on the results of what you want your taxes to look like. I mean, that's pretty simple. You have a tax problem because the order of your assets are inappropriate. They're not in the right order. Or your assets aren't working with each other. They're actually working against each other. And it's creating that more income and more taxes. Okay.
And shock of all shocks, it gets this way because you, as a doctor, as you've gone through your career and made more money, you've run into different people, you've been referred to different people, and they've had what they want to sell. Right? We've talked about this before. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You look like a nail to all these people. So you end up with all these various assets that are, maybe they're efficient. Maybe you're just like, you hit the jackpot and yours are all perfect. We haven't seen that yet.
In defense to the industry, it's also not the industry's fault. It's your fault too as a physician, because you're sitting there, you're making a decent amount of money, income. You don't have a lot of overhead expenses, whether you're in practice or you're a W-2 physician. And you're sitting there saying, I got to do something with this other than just sitting in my checking account, savings account. Right. So you go start looking at things. That's how most doctors come to us. I have a tax problem. Oh, look at this. My goodness. Let me click on this link and see what we can do. So obviously you're reaching out and you're looking. Does not mean you take action on that looking right away. Because if you don't have a plan for everything, including the most important asset in all of your assets is you. An asset is something that appreciates and grows income. That's you. Right? And based on how you do that dictates the type of taxation that the IRS and the government is going to put on it, and what the tax you owe is or don't owe is the results or the byproduct of that. So I think it's really important as a physician to understand that. And a lot of physicians come to us, especially certain foreign-born physicians, where they come here and it's all about real estate, right? And their community, their families, and it's all about real estate. But yet they still come to us with a tax problem. Why is that? Well, it's because of that conversation of what kind of income are you creating that creates a byproduct of tax. Assets have to have a purpose. You as a physician have a purpose, and based on more purpose in your business, your doctoring, your physicianing is your specific specialty. So you're not just a doctor, you're a doctor with a specialty with a very heightened purpose. Why do none of your other assets have purpose? I'll give you an example. Retirement accounts, right? What did I just call them? Retirement accounts. What's the government call them? Retirement accounts. And what's the purpose of retirement accounts? Replace earned income in retirement, which means that your earned income is ordinary income tax. So what kind of taxation is your retirement assets going to be? Ordinary income tax. But all your other investments, all your other assets are capital gains. Why is that? Because the purpose is to replace earned income at retirement, and the government's going to tax it accordingly. The government gave it purpose, and they're telling you have to have that. Why? They tease you by giving you tax benefits up front. Here's the interesting thing. Every single one of our physicians that come to us are an accredited investor. The majority of them do not grow their assets based on that accreditation of being an accredited investor. Which means when you're an accredited investor, you have access to this entire world of assets. Call them alternative assets or alternative investments. And the irony is, the majority of them are actually safer from a risk perspective, and a lot of times create a larger rate of return because they're not paying out dividends and incomes on an ongoing basis.
Well, and most advisors have no idea about those anyway. I think
there's the other issue.
Yeah, so you're talking about an industry that is essentially, and this is the industry that I came from, is working with financial advisors, teaching them how to build an effective practice that is desirable and produces the income that they want and whatnot. And the vast majority of them, when they came to me for coaching, they had hundreds upon hundreds and many times thousands of clients, most of whom wouldn't even come close to what you as a doctor are earning or have, as a liquid net worth. And so they don't know about these things. They don't know how to deal with business owners. It's shocking to me. I mean, it's like when you really think about it, because we get this all the time. How come more people don't do this? I don't know. They don't care enough. Like, it's just not their business. They just don't know it. And so I think, Bob, when you're talking about this, it's an unfamiliar territory, both for you as a doctor and for your advisors. So they're just not equipped to really talk about a lot of this, what we're talking about here.
And I think a good way to use this is let's use you as a doctor as an example. You go through high school, you applied for college, You know that you want to be a physician, or you're not sure what kind of doctor you want to be, but you got this affinity to biology, and so you go to and you major in biology of some sort and get your 4-year degree. And at the end of that 4-year degree, you've solidified your idea and your thought that I'm going to be a doctor. Now, you don't know its specialty probably, but you still are going to medical school. And so you go off to medical school, and medical school is designed in a 3-year period to give you all these different aspects and generalization of becoming a MD. But then during that period of time, you got to decide on what specialty you want to go into. And then you decide what specialty. And so when you graduate medical school, is that it? No. Then you go into residency. And your residency is going to be a period of time of additional training, apprenticeship, on-the-job training of that specialty. And depending on how detailed and how risk-based or intricate that specialty is, your residency could be longer than your medical school and baseline school, right? It could be 8 years of residency, right? And then you get into practice, boom. Does that mean you know everything? No, it means you know a whole ton of stuff because it was an evolution from high school to now you're actually in practice out of residency doing your thing. The same runs true with every industry. So our world, the finance world, so to speak, which we can include taxes, real estate, banking, investments, insurance, right? All the financials, same thing. You go to high school. You don't even have to go to college and get a degree in finance to be in our business. You just got to learn something, take a test, and do continuing education. You get to need a 70% or better on an exam, right? And it's 100 questions. So you get an opportunity to be wrong 30 times and still be able to get licensed. That could be the rest of your career. Now, each individual has the opportunity to decide on how far they want to take this education. Now it's on them. They didn't go and become or go into a structured educational period. Some will go get a designations or certifications or go get a master's in finance, and right there's a lot of letters that you can get at the end of your name. Right, you have an MD, right? A lot, or DO, right? A lot of, in our world, you can have alphabet soup. And that's supposed to, I guess, impress you. But the most important letters that you find are CPA. Those individuals, a lot of times, have stopped at that learning process because they're a certified public accountant and they're choosing to do tax returns and tax preparation, but they're trained in accounting. So they look at the taxes from an accounting, not from a business perspective. Now you'll have CPAs that do businesses, but they're looking at it from an accounting perspective, not a tax planning perspective. You talk to a tax attorney, they're looking at the legal aspect of the tax code. And they're way more knowledgeable than a CPA typically based on what you can use the tax code, right? But tax attorneys, why would they do a tax filing? That doesn't make sense. That's not worth their while. Okay, but I just explained different ways of our industry. Now, what we've done at Terra Firma, we've constantly evolved and learned more and more about assets. Not the symptoms. The symptoms are why people come to us. This is why your patients come to you because they have symptoms. And then you got to go to the root cause and figure out and diagnose the root cause. And that's what we do. To Joe's point, a lot of people don't do that in our industry. They stop because they may have found some success, or they may have found their comfort zone. We are discomforted where we're at right now. We want to always be uncomfortable because we always want to know that there is more that we can do for you. Just like you are doing the same thing for your patients. Medicine's evolving. The health, we're all evolving, and you have to stay up depending on your specialty on that evolution. That's how we are. We're always constantly learning. And the tax code changes, the laws change, every state is different, right? You change your desire why you have a particular asset or what your goal or your purpose of that asset is. So that's really the kind of the root of this entire, I think, episode is talking about what's the purpose of each of your assets in the purpose of your overall plan. Do they work together?
That's something that we do for our members when they come in through discovery. When we create, essentially, we ask them what's the purpose of each of their assets. So if you do choose to work with us, be prepared. Start thinking through. Here's all the assets that I have. What's the purpose of each of these? And Aaron, you do a lot of these. What's the most common answer when you ask what's the purpose of this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was supposed to, or I bought it. I thought it would give me, income.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I would say, for you, doctor, as you're listening to this episode, if I'll create a hypothetical, if you are earning more income than you need to live the lifestyle that you want, which for us is probably 95+% of the people that we talk to, you're earning more income than you need to live the life that you want, and you have assets that are yielding income to you personally, you're in the wrong position and we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. Like, it's just, it's okay for that to be the case. What I like to tell people, it's okay to get stuck. It's not okay to stay stuck. Now that you're aware of this, make today the last day in your life where you move through and navigate your financial world without a plan. Make today the last day that's the truth for you.
Mm.
Reach out and call us. We'd love to help you. This is what we do. It's why we exist as a company. So just because it's true today doesn't mean it needs to be true tomorrow, and we can help you get there. Anything else before we wrap up, team?
There's a whole lot. This could be beyond Joe Rogan episode.
Yeah, this is a multi-hour episode. Well, we'll get to the other topics that I'm sure we can all think of, and certainly let us know in the comments if you've got questions specifically, whether it's pertaining your scenario or just generically that we can answer for you. We want to create this content to help you, doctor. So let us know how we can help you. Let us know what questions you've got. We appreciate you being here and taking some time each week to listen to this. We have all kinds of stuff that we're always doing and releasing. Like Bob said, we're never satisfied with where we're at. We're always learning more, and we're excited to share that. So until next time, go be a wealth maverick.